I think it'll count us down. Yep.
Well, welcome to Before 30. We are back in the studio. This is Auntie Janine.
Nephew Trey is in the house. We're super excited to be back. How you doing, Auntie?
I am doing good, nephew. This has been, I'm so still excited about what we've been bringing, all this good information we've been bringing to our Before 30 family.
Absolutely. Talking about money.
Money, money, money.
Money, money, money. Finances. And
right.
we're just super excited to bring these topics to everyone. We know the holiday season is coming up. It's been a unique year for everyone, there's been so much going on, and we want to make sure that as we close out the year, we just talk about some serious topics. No matter where you are, no matter your experience with your money, your finances, we hope that you can walk away with this series with something.
Yeah, because right now some of y'all are thinking about how you're going to experience Black Friday, right? Am I going to shop online?
Prime Day just passed. Didn't it? Prime Day?
Yeah. Prime Day passed a couple weeks ago. And then now with this show, we're right before the Thanksgiving holiday. And so, it's really interesting because, they've been talking about the economy, all the things going on with the stock market.
Yes.
Now, however, consumer spending is still up. Like people are buying stuff, and I'm gonna call it that. They're buying stuff. And I know toward the earlier this year, I was really in the stock market, like watching these stocks drop and things that I had missed out on in the past. But when stocks started dropping, we started buying stuff. And so it's really interesting. And so that's one of the other things that I think is really great about this conversation we're having here on Before 30 in our financial series is the experts that we're bringing on is helping us walk through our debt situation, eliminate that debt, start saving, so that we can start investing and just making better choices with our money. We've already talked about the money mindset. So hopefully some of y'all have been paying attention over the last 2 weeks. Like, what are your money spending triggers? Are you an emotional spender like Auntie Janine?
Yes. And I think we really want you to think about your unique situation. No two people's situations are the exact same. So you could be going through a transition, maybe a job transition, some other type of life transition.
Bringing your finances together with a significant other. You may have a new addition to the family, whatever the case may be, an aging parent or children, whatever it is, being mindful and being intentional that your finances, you might need to take a second look at them because a life transition could definitely impact your budget and your spending. Yeah. So what if you don't get anything else out of this series? You got to have a plan, right? Absolutely. You're going to either without a plan, you will fail. With the plan, we anticipate that there will be success. And that's what I'm excited about today. Today, we're going to help you put together a debt elimination and savings plan. How do we get rid of all that is consumer debt, right? Yeah. We done talked about all sorts of things, but we want to help you today get on track, put your plan together, and we have an expert here to help us do that. So Trey, what do you say? Like, what's your saving, plan? Do you
see, this is the topic I actually struggle with a lot, to be completely honest with you. I'm gonna be transparent. And I think I've mentioned it before. So I'm the type of person that knows I have to save. So I think on the savings part, I do really well. We'll be talking about budgeting and saving. Those are two topics we'll be talking about in this episode. So I think I'm pretty good on the savings part. I know that I have to pay myself first for retirement and just have my emergency fund. But that budgeting piece, I tell you once, I can't even tell you, what month are we in, what last month looked like. So I do a really bad job of going back and comparing my budgeted spending to my actual budget. To be completely honest, I don't even have a budget. So I'm one of those people where I'm going to be listening. I'm going to be asking questions to our expert. And I'm a simple person. Like I'm not one of these people that needs, I need a simple process to help me with this, because I think sometimes if it's not simple, if it feels like such a huge task, that's just when I just throw it all out the window. I'm like, I can't do this. But that's what a
lot of people like that. We get so busy with other stuff that we sometimes forget to make time for budgeting, right? The things that are most important to us, that can really impact our lives, or sometimes the things that we overlook and we don't spend enough time in that space. And we're like, oh, I'm too busy to sit down and budget and figure out what I'm spending and what I'm saving and what my expenses look like. But what I learned, and I can't wait to talk to our expert about this today. Yeah. What I've been doing this month is going back, looking at my expenses. So my life insurance, my car, my homeowner's insurance. And I started doing some research, calling up different companies, and I have saved about $700 just switching to new providers and got more coverage. So that's part of the budgeting process, but I'm not the expert. We're going to bring on our expert.
But you dropped the gym real quick.
Yeah, I tried to. I try to slide stuff in for y'all. So, I'm excited about having our expert on today. We are talking about budgeting and saving with Mrs. Melody Wright. She is a trained PhD scientist who traded in her goggles to become a financial empowerment coach, certified financial education instructor, speaker, personal finance author. Y'all, she wrote a book. Get her book. We're going to talk about that too. She has a passion for helping people create a better life through financial education. She's the owner and founder of Broke on Purpose and Just Right Group LLC. Melody understands that a financial plan isn't one size fits all. We are all unique. So that is, and I like that. She's not going to try to put you in a box. But when faced with $212,000 of debt,
200?
What? Didn't include her mortgage. She used her analytical skills, learned from her time in science to develop a framework that helped her family pay off over $100,000 in debt in less than 3 years. Now she's living her version of a rich life. And we love rich friends. We got a new rich friend, y'all. Melody has been featured on the Rachel Ray Show, named a new money expert by Glamour Magazine, and has appeared on Grow, CNBC, as well as several other podcasts. So we are honored to have Melody here with us. So we want y'all to welcome her in. And I mentioned that she is an author. So we want y'all to check out her book. Her book is Start Here: Your Guide to Building Your Money Management System. We will have more information about that book in the show notes, so you can go right over to Amazon or to her website to purchase it. But in the meantime, y'all welcome Melody Wright to the show.
Welcome to the show.
Hi. Welcome. Thank you for having me.
We're super excited to have you. Thank you so much. So Auntie Janine just went through your whole professional bio. And she just put all your business out there. So we just introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Yes, you had a busy day today.
Yes, I did. Today was launch day for my my new book that just came out. Start Here: Your Guide to Building Your Money Management System. I'm so excited to share it with the world, and I'm excited to tell you guys a little bit more about that. But first thing first, I feel like I should be called I'm Cousin Melody.
Yes.
What's up, Cuz?
So I'm Cousin Melody. I am a trained PhD scientist with a background in parasitology. I did that for a couple of years.
What's parasitology? What is that?
Parasitology is the study of parasites. So I worked on the malaria parasite. So I decided that I would do personal finance on the side, especially as I was going through my journey of paying off all our debt, or working towards paying off our debt. And I realized that felt more fulfilled when I helped other people find financial empowerment than I was just sitting at the desk, pipetting samples, or working in medical communications, or working as a medical science liaison. So hung up my pipettes and safety goggles and decided to become a full-time financial empowerment coach and a certified financial education instructor. So basically what I do is I help people who struggle with managing their money. I help them to learn how to move past what feels like financial overwhelm, when your money just feels like it's just too much and you can't handle it. And I help them to design what I call strategic money management systems. Now, what these systems do is they create organization and increase financial flexibility within your money. So that puts you in control. It puts you in the driver's seat, and it allows you to live your version of a rich life. So I'm basically that person that comes in. You know how those TV shows where somebody's house is like a mess?
Oh, yeah.
and they like organize it. And at the end, you're like, oh my gosh, I got to do that with my house. So that's kind of,
that's like kind of finance whisperer.
Yeah, so that's kind of what I come in and do. And at the end, my clients walk away feeling motivated, they feel empowered, and they feel in control. And they can actually start to live that version of a rich life that they have been wanting to live, but just couldn't figure out how to do it.
So you mentioned organized. I like that word because, you know, sometimes things can get chaotic. Like, what exactly does like financial organization look like? Or what, can you speak about that a little bit?
Yeah, so I think, so financial organization, you really don't hear people talk about that too much. So I think that's kind of something that's just unique to what I do and with the money management system. So because I came from science, I work off of protocols. I like rules, regulations. I like structure. I need to know like what I did before so that I can repeat that if I need to, or I need to know what I did so I can make sure I don't do that again. Right. And so with my money, when I started to pay off my debt, like I was just like, oh, I see so-and-so has a plan. I'm just going to try that. But the thing about finances, and something that we realize as we continue to work on our own finances, that it's called personal finance for a reason. Yep. It's personal to you, and you can't copy and paste what somebody else is doing and expect the same results. But unfortunately, sometimes I think that's what we try to do. And then we get into a position where, oh, I can't do it because you're not seeing that same success. So you abandon ship. And so with the financial organization, what that looks like is I help you create this streamlined money management system that starts with your income and goes all the way to what you want to do in terms of how you want to live your life, how you need to save in order to live that life, and how you're going to pay off your debt. And so with the system set up, the way the system is set up, it allows you to decide, hey, am I going to really live it up this month, or am I going to decide to put more money in my savings, or am I just going to do both? Am I going to really focus on paying off my debt? If there is an error in my budget, can I figure out where it came from? And if there was an error, how is that affecting other parts of my system? And so instead of you looking at finances as all these different moving parts, it's one big system, like one big flow chart. And you can easily stand back and say, the error came here.
You can see the trickle effect. Like you can see.
Yeah, you can see the whole trickle effect. So it just makes it so much more organized and streamlined. And the best thing about it is that because it's so efficient, it maximizes the way your money is working for you. And that's what I love about it.
Nice. That's awesome. So what comes first? The system, budgeting, saving, paying off debt? Like, how do I jump into this? So I have some debt. I don't have a whole lot of savings. I don't budget at all. I just pay my bills every month. And then whatever I have left, I spend it. I go out and hang out with my girls. What comes first? How do you get organized?
So what really comes first is it's not really the system that comes first, because the system is built out as you actually start to plan out exactly what you want to do. Okay. But what comes first is what I tell everybody is that you have to get clear on exactly what you want to do. And that's by creating SMART goals: specific, measurable, attainable, realistic or relative, and time-bound or timely goals, right? And when you create those, and when you create these SMART goals, especially around your finances, it really helps you to hone in on exactly what is that priority for your finances. Like, what is that thing that I really want to do? Because you might say, I want to save money. Okay, but how much do you want to save, and how quickly do you want to save it, and why are you trying to save it? And so once you get down to the nitty gritty of answering the who, what, where, when, and why about what you just said, you can really decide, okay, this is how I want my system to work because this is what I really want to do. So it starts with creating those SMART goals. And from the SMART goals, you can build out how you want your system to work. And the great thing about the system is that it's not permanent. You don't just set it and just like, that's it. This is a system I have to live on for the rest of my life. It's a fluid process. And so when you set it, you can say, well, this is happening next month, so I need to change my system to account for these extra expenses, or change my system to account for the fact that I'm going on vacation. Like, so that's what I love about it. It's so efficient, and that it just takes away that overwhelm or that feeling of, oh, this is just too much and I can't do it, that anxiety that some people feel surrounding money. And so you start with those goals, and then from those goals, you start to create your budget or your spending plan. They're the same thing, but a lot of people feel like, oh, budget, that means I can't do anything. That means I'm in prison with my money. And they tend to have this thought where I don't want to be on a budget because I work too hard for my money, so I should be allowed to spend it. And yes, you should. That's the whole reason why you make money, so that you can spend it. But the great thing about a budget is that it places these soft boundaries around how you said you wanted to spend your money, because a budget doesn't knock on your door and say, hey, I'm your budget for the month. Like, this is what you gotta do. You're the one actually sitting down to make it. So you tell yourself how much you want to spend in these specific categories. And that budget is that piece of paper or that reminder that says, hey, you said you were going to do this. So let's try to stay within these boundaries. Yeah. Right.
That sounds good.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And so question, like the budgeting and the saving piece, are those two separate things or do they go hand in hand? And when is there tension between the saving piece and the budget, and which one is, in your mind, which one's more of a priority, or do you need to tackle them together?
Okay, so that was a lot of questions.
I know. I like to. I
was like, okay, so in terms of, are the budget and savings two different entities?
Yes,
they are two very different entities, okay, but they talk to each other, right? So they talk to each other. You create your budget first because your budget is telling your money where it's going to go. Okay. Your budget is saying, okay, guys, $50 you're going here, $100 you're going here, $20 you're going here. That's kind of how the budget works. Mm. But when it comes to your savings, you set those savings goals and you relay it back to your budget. So this month I want to save $200. So in your budget, there needs to be a line items for savings, and whatever the name of that savings account is. It's not just going to be savings. It needs to have a specific name in order to be a SMART goal, right? So you relay that back to your budget. And you say, all right, I'm saving $200 for Beyonce's new Ivy Park drop that's coming out. That's coming out next week, right? So you have a line item for that. And in your budget's going to take that and say, all right, well, if you do that, that means you can't do these things because there's not enough money to go around. And so that's what I mean by the budget placing these soft boundaries around what you said you wanted to do, because it's basically telling you, this is how much money you have to work with. And with this money, can you really do all the things that you want to do? If not, we need to change some things around.
Okay. Are goals set like monthly, or do you go and say, okay, if I'm starting this budgeting process, I don't have a budget, I don't have a savings plan, but I'm going to get through these holidays, and in January, I'm going to put it together. Maybe I'll do it the last week in December.
Good old January.
The last week in December, I'm going to start like 2021. I'm going to hit some goals. Do I say do I look and say, well, I want to save, $5,000 next year. And do I put that into my system and start figuring out how do I get to $5,000? But I say I want to save $5,000 next year, but I haven't talked about like my vacation. So how would you sit down, as a financial coach and work with me on that? Or but I want to save $5,000. Oh, I forgot to tell you, I got, $90,000 in debt because I got $45,000 in student loan debt. I got some consumer debt, those sort of car notes. So
this is a typical conversation.
Okay, how it goes.
Yeah. How would you approach that?
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
How would you approach a scenario like that, or like with your typical client?
So the client came to me and they started going on and on about like all this stuff that they wanted to do. I would kind of back them up, right? I would back them up and I'd say, okay, because one of the first things I am going to ask you to do is to create goals. And I kind of start you off by telling me what are your goals in terms of short-term, mid-term, or long-term goals, right? Mm-hmm. So we know our short-term goals, are those goals that we want to achieve in around 3 months worth of time. The mid-range goals are going to be goals we want to achieve within 3 to 8 months, a little bit. And then our long-term goals are like six months and beyond, like a year and beyond. Like those are the goals that might take us a couple of years to do, right? So once you break down your goals into short-term, mid-term, or long-term goals, then it starts to ask the question of, then what's the priority? Okay, so we have these goals. Let's say you said you wanted to save, what was it? A couple $1,000. Yeah. $5,000. You want to save $5,000, but then you have this vacation coming up in like 6 months, right? But then you also have like $90,000 worth of debt that you want to pay off, right? So we have 3 things that are on the table.
Oh, but I only make $65,000 a year.
Just throw more stuff on here. Yeah. You only make $65,000 a month.
A year.
year because I'm like, why are you even talking to me? Okay, I mean, so so you only make $65,000 a year, but we have these three things on the table. We have three things on the table, and I'm going to have you say, okay, you gave me three top things. In order priority, what's more important to you? What needs to get done? What is that one thing that you need to do in order to be able to sleep well at night?
What would you, right? Yeah. Do you normally make suggestions to your clients, or do you really tell them to
so I am a coach that teaches you how to fish. I don't fish for you. Oh. So I give you these, I try to make you critically think about your finances because I was taught to critically think. And I feel like that really has helped me in life in terms of like how to approach situations. Like when my site went down today during my book launch, I didn't like panic. I didn't freak out. I was able to just take a step back, revise it, regroup, and restore, right? Mm-hmm. So that's kind of how I want you to approach financial situations. And that's how I teach my clients how to approach financial situations. Actually, it's regroup, revise, and restore. But all right, so what was the question again? I'm sorry.
So now what do I do? 65,000.
Right. So you asked me, so you asked me that. So based on the priority, I don't tell you what to do. I ask you, what do you feel like is the thing that you should be doing? Because I don't want to tell you what to do when you say, well, Melody told me to do this. Mm-mm. I want you to figure out what you want to do. And based on your suggestion, then I'll ask you more questions to get to the why behind you feel like you want to do this. Because I probably know what you need to do, but I'm going to help you get to figuring out, oh, well, you know what? I want to go on vacation, but saving up this money because I had such a hard year last year. I know I need this money saved. So I'm going to help you get to that point where we talk about why it's important for you to have an emergency fund set up so that it can have your back in case of emergencies versus going on a vacation. When you come home from that vacation, there's still no emergency fund. So you're still in the same spot. So, and if the client still feels like, well, I really want to go on vacation. Okay, I'm not going to tell you you can't go, but let's work out a compromise. Mm-hmm. Let's say that you saved to go on vacation, but at the same time, you're still putting money into your emergency fund. Let's talk about what percentage of that discretionary income that you have left after building out your money management system and building out your budget or your savings plan, you have left to be able to divide up into an emergency fund or going on vacation. Yeah. So I put it to them like that because again, it's all about the client being in control of their finances and being empowered and motivated in making the decisions. So at the end of our coaching, I want them to walk away like, I got this.
Yeah. Gotcha. I always know you start with paying off debt. Is that a myth? Like
it's on your priorities, right? So I think one of the biggest myths out there is that everybody wants to be debt free. Not everybody wants to be debt free, and it's completely okay if you don't want to be debt free, right? So you can still have debt and be diligently paying it off while doing other things in life. You don't have to be debt free to be finally able to enjoy life. I'm not debt free. While I have paid off a huge sum of my debt, we've paid off well over $100,000 since that. Because that was in 2017, right? So we paid off well over $100,000. I still have some student loan debt. Am I like gung ho about I got to get this off my back? No, because I have it at a manageable amount where I can enjoy my life, do the things that I want to live, and not feel like those student loans are a burden. Yeah. So it's really about figuring out, what do I want to do? What is my version of a rich life? What does that look like? And if having a little bit of debt is part of your version of a rich life, but it's manageable, that's completely okay. I'm not that type of coach that tells you you have to pay off your debt. Will paying off your debt give you access to more things because it increases your discretionary income? Yes, it will, but paying off your debt is not the end all be all because it's personal. Do you?
Okay. And so, I guess you kind of touched on it a little bit about personal, like how it can be very personal. Can you speak? I know we talked about your story in the introduction, but can you give us a little bit more insight into maybe some missteps, or when did that transition occur from, hey, I gotta manage this, I gotta get this under control, and there was a change?
Yeah. So like most people, I knew that I had debt. I didn't know how much debt I had because I never calculated, like I calculated it up. I knew that I had credit cards. I knew that I had student loans. I had car payments, but I never sat down and tallied all the numbers together to get that total number.
Right.
And that's because I was able to live my life. I didn't ever feel like I was living paycheck to paycheck. I didn't ever feel like I wanted something, but that's because my credit cards gave me that false sense of security that I could get whatever I wanted, right? Just go pay my credit card, just make the minimum payments. And so it really wasn't until 2015, I was in the PhD program and my advisor came to me and he was like, hey, just so you know, you're going to graduate in December. Mind you, it's like February. And I'm like, I thought I had a good 3 years left in the program. So I'm trying to figure out where this accelerated timeline came from. Like he was talking about retiring. I thought maybe he wanted to get me out before he retired. So I went home, this rattled me because I had a plan based off of, okay, I got 2 more years in the program. That means I could pay off my car by the time I finish the program. So I won't have to worry about that. So I had banked on, that money coming in for that many years and me being able to do what I needed to do. But when he dropped that bomb on me, I decided to go home and finally look at, okay, well, I got to get a plan together. So just in case I do graduate, either I don't get a postdoc or a job immediately and all my student loans are due. So now I got to pay those and I don't have any money coming in, or I do get a postdoc and what's the difference in the income? But my student, I was all these different scenarios again. I'm right. So I'm trying to figure out what's what. And that's when I realized that we had the $212,000 of debt. And I hadn't even added in the mortgage. I was just adding in all our debt. And I was floored, floored. I was like, I don't even have activity in my life. Let me just not deal with this. And the hardest part of it wasn't even acknowledging the number. It was going to tell my husband that we actually had this much debt because both of us were oblivious to it. So that was the big transition for me. I realized that I had been living my best lie. LIE, life. So I needed to get it together. And so that first month, which was March 2015, I said, okay, I got to pay off some of these credit cards. I got to get rid of some of this debt. This is ridiculous. So I put myself on this strict, you're not buying anything unless it's within this new written budget that you're going to stick to this time. Going out to eat, no stopping for coffee, you're bringing your lunch, very, very strict. And in that first month, even using some of the income that I had from side hustles that I was doing. I was a lifestyle influencer back then. So I was bringing in money from working with brands, but I was spending it it was nothing. So that first month we were able to pay off, I think it was either $2,300 or $2,500 within that first month. And I was like, oh, okay, so this is good. This is great. This is a plan. And I started to continue to actually do that. And then I organized it a little bit more to be more efficient with the money management system. And within 3 years, we had, less than 3 years, 32 months, we had paid off over $100,000 of our debt.
Wow. I think that you touched on quite a few different things, but one of the things that resonated most with me, and I could be a little bit biased because I use that same approach. I had to move away from immediate and even short-term self-gratification when I did have debt when I was younger, or even when I started my business, right? I had to remember I can't go out to dinner with my friends anymore and spend $150 on wine and salad.
That's wine and salad, girl. The steak or something in there.
Right? And I wasn't eating a lot of meat, but we were drinking a lot. So it could be, so I had to say, okay, I can't do those things. I can't eat every meal out. I can't be buying all of these sorts of things. So I did that, like what you mentioned. I restricted my spending. And I even once stopped doing vacations. I went a whole year and didn't go out of the country, no vacations. Any trip I did, I tied it on to business related travel, but it was all here in the States. And so I think what we have to recognize, and you correct me if I'm wrong, because you're the expert, that we really got to be honest with ourselves, right? And have a real look in the mirror. And you mentioned it earlier. What is stopping you from sleeping? And some of y'all think you are sleeping, and you are. You are sleeping and living your best lie. I love that. Living your best lie. And you're the walking dead. Right. And so I think we have to be,
oh, that's good. The Walking Dead.
Right. And that is you can have it. All
Halloween costume. I'm like, that's a good Halloween costume.
Right. And and I think it's great because our audience, they're before their 30th birthday, in order to get to this place where you have the creative energy. And I think this is, something that you can also relate to, Melanie, where you're moving into this creative energy of finding your purpose. You got to let some stuff go. And some of that might be personal gratification, things that you love to do for the short term, but definitely trying to get out of debt so that you can live a rich life, that how you define it, right? But we don't want y'all to be deceived. Debt is heavy. It is weighty,
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. It is. And I mean, actually the reason why I came up with the name Broke on Purpose came from me having to constantly tell people no. People will say, I mean, a lot of my friend groups were based on us spending together. Like we would go out to eat, we would go shopping, we would do this. We really only had spending in relation. Like we really didn't hang out or talk to each other unless we was talking about, see that film? Like we didn't.
Right.
So when I started to have to turn down, invitations to go out, when I started turning down invitations to, go shopping or just do our normal thing, I would always say, I can't do that because I'm broke. And they'd be like, girl, you're not broke. And I'm like, well, this time I'm broke on purpose instead of being broke for no reason, right? Because sometimes we'll be like, at the end of the month, I have nothing to show for my money. You're aimlessly broke. You have no reason to be broke. But this time I'm broke because all my money went towards paying off these bills. My money went towards putting stuff in my savings. It went towards investing. I was giving. I was basically doing everything right with my money. So there was a purpose behind me not being able to do the things that I wanted to do. So I was broke, but this time I was broke on purpose. And I think for me, broke on purpose is a state of being, right? Mm-hmm. Because I know exactly what I need my money to do. So if it's not included in my vision of what my life looks like, then I'm not doing it. So there's a purpose for where my money is going.
Exactly. And now you mentioned a few times you used the term we. So it seems like there became a time in which you had to involve someone else in this process of this budget. Can you talk about a little bit of that process and, how was that? Was that a simple conversation, a tough conversation? Were you all on the same page, or like, how does that work when there's more than one person that has to subscribe to the budget?
Yeah. So in our family, I was kind of always the one who would make the budget, and I'm doing quotes because I'd be like, yeah, that's what we're going to spend. But then we would never stick with it. So it was just, I would just go through the motions of making the budget to pretend like I was financially savvy. But when I actually got to the point where I realized how much debt we had, it took me a couple of days to even get the courage to tell my husband. And when you say debt is heavy, that was heavy, right? It was just something like, I was like a scarlet letter that I just knew he just saw $212,000 written across my
that kind of because you felt like you were managing the debt, so you had to deliver this new, okay.
So, right. So that was a lot of it because I felt like I was the one making sure the cards were paid. I was the one making sure that, the bills were paid, stuff like that. So I kind of really felt like it fell on me because I was the one who didn't catch all this stuff was happening, even though I really couldn't shoulder the blame by myself, because if you're in a relationship, both people should be cognizant of what's happening with the money, and it shouldn't fall on one person. So when I finally had that conversation with him, I still wonder to this day how he was so calm. I expected it to be like anger, maybe I'm not talking to you for a little bit, but he gave me so much grace that I don't know if he's going to hold it over my head for something in the future or not, but I still don't know. But when I told him about it, but I came to him and I was like, this is how much debt we have. I know. Okay. Whatever, but I have a plan. And I told him I had a plan, even though I really didn't have a plan. Like I was going to be making it up as I went, but I was like, I got it. And that's what a lot of people do. They'll be like, I'll figure it out. I'll make something work. And my initial plan was to go to the bank and get a loan to consolidate the debt, right? So if I consolidated it into one, I would lower the interest rate in theory, which would lower the payment, which would allow me to have a little bit more room to pay extra on other bills. The bank turned me down. They were like, yeah, no, we can't do that. So
they didn't trust you.
Well, obviously, if I'm walking in with $212,000 debt, you trust me?
Right, man. We good.
You wouldn't trust me either. So that's when I had to get really creative and figure it out for myself, because I didn't want to go ask my parents for money. I didn't even want to tell my parents how much money that we had. It took a while before I finally announce to people like how much debt we had. At first, I was like, yeah, we paid off this much this month. And even though in those first couple of months, actually probably the first 6 months or so, maybe even I think it was the first year, actually, the first year, I was doing it all by myself. Like I was creating a budget. I was telling my husband, like, this is the budget. We have to stick to this. This is our budgeting app we're going to use. It's one login. So we both were able to log in and put in how much we're spending so that nobody can say, oh, I didn't know, but he was just on cruise control. He was like, all right, whatever you want to do. And so it became really lonely, trying to manage it all on my own, because even though I felt like I was kind of like the main cause of it because I didn't catch it, it got really lonely. And so I got to a point where I really had to tell him, hey, I need your help with this. Like, I need you to step up helping to pay off this debt also, because in reality, it wasn't all mine, So that's when he really got into it as well. He started to work extra jobs, do side hustles to bring in extra money to pay off the debt. He started to think of different ways to maximize our money. We started to do a meal plan where we would plan out the meals for the entire month. Wow. So we had everything planned for the entire month. So that way when we went to the grocery store, it was like, you buy what we need to cook these meals for the week. There's no extra in the cart. We were only spending $250 a month on groceries, and that was it. And we were able to live and eat pretty good. Thank you, Aldi, because of it, right? And so it really took a while for him to get on board. But in order for him to get on board, I had to keep sharing the vision of what it would look like on the other side of debt. I had to keep getting him excited about it. Like when we got to a point where we could pay off his car, we were supposed to be going to Aruba. And I was like, if we don't go to Aruba, even though we've been saving to go for a while now, if we don't go to Aruba and we use this money, we can pay off your car. Like, which one do you want to decide to do? And he really wanted to go to Aruba. But I think actually talking about how we would have all this extra money now because we're not making car payments really sold him on the idea that this was better. And Aruba will be there. But who wants to continue to make car payments, even though you go to Aruba?
Yeah.
So
that's story.
Because to answer your question.
Yeah, you definitely answered our question, because you said so many great things. And I think for our young couples, one of the biggest things you said is two people, two thoughts, two ideas, two people committed to the same cause. It can get chipped away so much faster, right? Yep. And I think that's it. You have to be in community and partnership with this. So even if you're married, or you're thinking about getting married, or even if you're unmarried, right? Yep. Getting in partnership with the people in your life around debt and talking about money can be transformative. Yeah. And we always tell you guys, don't sit in your rooms isolated with these burdens of life on you. When you bring your girlfriends together, bring your guys, bring your college friends, y'all all know y'all got debt. You know you do. Like y'all get together to plan these extravagant vacations.
Get together to talk about your investments and your savings and your budgeting.
That's so true. Everybody has a money story to tell. So a lot of people feel the shame and embarrassment behind it. And that's why they don't want to talk about it. So if you were just out here and bought some Gucci shoes, but now you're going to come tell me that you live in paycheck to paycheck. Right. I'm gonna side eye you, but then I'm gonna be like, so how can we fix this? Right. But I think that's so important that, like you said, like, talk to your significant other. And if you're single, talk with your friends, like really talk and find that level of accountability. You have an accountability partner, somebody that holds you to what you said you were going to do. It makes you want to work harder because now you don't want to let that person down.
And another question for you, Melody. You mentioned tools. So you mentioned, I guess there might have been an app you and your husband used. So what tool did you use and why did you choose that one?
So the first thing that we did was actually wrote it down on paper. Okay. We wrote it down on paper and like we would put it somewhere where both of us could see it. But the next tool that we used is called the Every Dollar app, and it's by Dave Ramsey. He's another financial guru that probably people I'm sure have heard of.
Like my old friend did that one. Tell me about that one. I've heard that one before.
Yeah, so it's called Every Dollar. Okay. And the great thing, and they have a paid version or a free version. You do not need the paid version. I'm just going to tell you this right now. You don't need it. Okay? You don't. And a lot of people are going to say, oh, well, the paid version, it syncs with my bank and it just moves everything over. But the great thing about Every Dollar is that it helps you to build the habit of budgeting, right? So if you manually put in how much you spend yourself, you are making yourself build that muscle and that habit of tracking your spending. Mm-hmm. But if you're allowing on the bank to just move it over, what if there's an error with the bank and they don't move it over in time and you overspend it because you were relying on them? So Every Dollar app is great. If you are in a relationship, if you are married, married, not in like a boyfriend-girlfriend relationship, if you are married, you can have one account. Just set it up with just like your last name as a username, with the password. You go in, you set the budget for the month. And then as you and your significant other are living your life, let's say one of you stops and gets gas, before you leave the pump, you can put in how much you spend on gas so that the next person who needs to know how much they have left to spend on gas can look at it and say, okay, we still got $100 left to spend on gas, so I know I'm good, right? So it keeps that communication going, even though you guys aren't together. And whenever you're using any type of app or any type of software, even though you're putting it all in there, communicating with each other, as in talking to each other and speaking about what you've been spending, what you've been doing, what thing you ran into, is still going to be like a huge part of sticking with your budget.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, that's great. So apps are good because it's right in your hand. You guys, all of our family, our nieces, nephews, and cousins listen to this show. You're a part of this app community, so you definitely want to get into that. So let's talk about resources, other books and resources. So Melanie, I bet you have a book that you would recommend. So let's talk about Start Here as we get, close to closing out our show. Some people like apps, some people like to read things so that they can get information, they can write in a book and take notes. Let's talk a little bit about your book, Start Here, your guide to building your money management system.
So this is, go ahead.
Take away. Let's show us a cover. Show us your book. What we got? Ooh.
Hey.
So this is the book. It is called Start Here, Your Guide to Building Your Money Management System. And so the reason why I wrote this book, because as a financial empowerment coach, as a financial education instructor, one of the main questions that I get from people one of the main statements that I even hear is, I don't know where to start. I'm so overwhelmed. I don't know what to do. How do I even begin? And so I thought about all the questions that people would ask me, and I thought about all the statements that people would make. And I, was like, you know what? I'm going to write a book that tells them exactly where and how to start with creating a financial plan and getting their money together. So that book is called Start Here. So not only do I answer the question of where and how do I start, but I talk about how you can transform your money mindset, how you can manage your money mindset, and then incorporate that money mindset so that you can go on to build your own money management system. So I give you the details, the blueprint, the guide on how to build your own money management system so that you can streamline your finances, make them more efficient, and really start to live your version of a rich life. So I'm giving you all the juice, all the tea, everything that you need to start to do that in this book. There are pictures for people who like to see pictures on how to do things. I walk through retirement. I walk through creating a budgeted spending plan, talk about saving, sinking funds. We talk about debt repayment strategies. How do you choose your best one that works for you? So we talk about breaking your goals down into mentally manageable pieces. So this book is really geared to somebody who is really wanting to make a change with their finances, doesn't know how to start, but just kind of needs a guide to help them along the way. So that's what this book is written.
That is awesome. What's your favorite chapter of the book?
Ooh, my favorite chapter.
Do you have one?
Ask me that. I'm thinking now. I'm like, what is my favorite chapter? I think my favorite chapter is, and I think it's one that's really going to resonate with a lot of people. It's called Habits, Trends, and Triggers. Mm-hmm. And so this chapter is about figuring out what's causing you to spend. What is that one thing that keeps making you spend? Because a lot of people say, I just can't stop spending. I keep spending money. I don't know why I stop. Well, the question is, are you spending because of a habit? Are you spending because it's a trend? The new iPhone's coming out and everybody's going to be like, oh, my phone not taking pictures like it used to. Right? So because it's a trend. It's on trends. Yeah. Everybody's going to want to do it. Or are you spending because of a trigger? Is something happening in your life that's causing you to spend? Like maybe you had a bad day at work. Are you hanging around somebody that's causing you to spend? Like what are those things, defining what that is, and then being able to move past them so that you can start to stop spending so much money or realign how you're spending so that it aligns with your values. Right. And again, work it in your money management system and to live your version of a rich life.
I love that. All right.
Perfect. Well, thank you. Thank you for sharing all of that. How can everyone get in contact with you? I know you do a lot of speaking and you're writing, but what's the best way to kind of learn more about you?
And to work.
So the best way the best way to learn more about me is to visit my website. It's www.livebroke, brokeonpurpose.com. So on there, you'll be able to learn more about my offerings. You can learn more about me. And on there, you can actually sign up for one-on-one financial empowerment coaching, as well as some of the other things that I'm going to be releasing soon, like digital courses or even my intimate coins and conversations. I'm bringing that virtually now. I used to only do that locally. So because we can't go outside, or I don't want to go outside, I'm gonna be doing it virtually. So there's so many different ways that you can work with me, that you can connect with me. I am one of those people who's never too busy to stop and answer a question. So if you do have a question or you do have a struggle, or you just want to get some advice, you can send me a message via my contact form on the site, or you can chat with me on one of the social media outlets. On all the social media outlets, it's at Broke on Purpose. I am most active on Instagram. So if you message me there, I'll probably respond to you quicker than I would on Facebook or Twitter.
All right. Well, we are excited, you guys. So y'all hit Melody up at livebrokeonpurpose.com. You can find her on all of her social media outlets at Broke on Purpose. And we love people who engage with the community. So Melody is part of our community. She is Cousin Melody. We have enjoyed this conversation. Nephew Trey and I have learned a lot, right? Things that we are going to do. And so we want to make a special offer on today's show. We've been so excited to have Melody. We know a lot of you are trying to figure out this finance thing around, budgeting, saving, paying off debt. You need a plan. You need a strategy. So what we're going to do, for those of you who listen to this show, you write comments on our Instagram page or our Facebook page, and even on LinkedIn. The first 3 people who write a comment on that Facebook page, Auntie Janine is going to get you the book, Start Here. So, so we're going to be looking for these comments. So y'all make sure we'll have all the information in the show notes. If you're watching on YouTube, hey, y'all watching with us. If you're watching on YouTube, the information will be in there too. So we're going to be looking for those comments about the show, and then we'll be getting in touch with you, getting your address, sending you this book so you'll have it just in time for the holidays, so you can start planning your budget and your savings plans for 2021.
Yes.
That is awesome. Look how good family is, y'all.
Exactly.
Look how good family.
We want to buy gifts that matter. We buy gifts that matter.
Exactly. And make sure you're when you're listening, you subscribe so that you stay up to date with everything. And so just remember, at before 30, you are
a masterpiece
and a work in progress.
Just a second. I like that.